Gaslighting and hypocrisy are abuse. And that, in my opinion, is what the establishment and what those who control the establishment are doing. They are gaslighting and they're being hypocrites. Or the hypocrites and the gaslighters are being helped, at least helped, by our establishment. And it does, on an emotional level, it makes me angry. And I don't know really if I can get beyond that emotion of like, where do you come up with this stuff? I mean, I listen to, I look at what's going on Twitter, and I see things like CNN, and it's like, geez, I mean, for me, it baffles my mind how we've regressed as far as news is considered. And I used to be a big news junkie back in the day. I remember Ted Koppel. I mean, Walter Cronkite was a little bit before my time. I think of Bernard Shaw and CNN. CNN has completely gone off the rails as far as emotional news is concerned. You got people talking about crying. I mean, it's like, where do they find these people? You can't be objective if you're talking. When Brian Stelter says, "I have been crying," and I wouldn't care if they're a liberal or a conservative. That's not something that you should do. I want to say hello to Political Woodstock, but I am angry and I am upset about certain things. They're going on and on about the January 6th riots. And the more you tend to examine these facts, some of the tapes look like they were invited in by the police. And they were all talking about being peaceful, and some of them may have been let in. But can we put the contrast with the BLM Antifa riots? I mean, people who riot are unhinged. Can we do an examination between the Proud Boys and Antifa and see who's more unhinged, who's more crazy? It completely baffles me how, like, the right and the left are so different today. And it just seems like there are portions of the left who do not get it. And then there are portions who claim to be in the center or whatever, some of these never Trumpers, they don't get it either. They don't see how bad some of these unhinged lunatics are. And I don't want to live next to them. I don't want to live near them. I think they are awful, vindictive, awful people. I don't want to spend my money in their establishments if I can help it. If I can't help it, then yeah, I guess there are certain things I have to spend my money on, but I don't have to go to the movies. I don't have to see any of the new movies that are out there. If they're woke left, why would I want to watch that stuff? Why would I want to give money to people who espouse values that I completely despise and disagree with? I want to, again, maybe I'll ask for Political Woodstock to come in board and see if she wants to talk to me. I'll put a little feeler out there. Hopefully her her whatchamacallit comes in okay. So, but it has angered me. I want my anger to inform me, and the best way to go about it. I know it's not going off and getting angry. I have been angry on Twitter. I mean, some of the things that I believe to be true that have been suppressed do anger me, because there are people that have inflicted a lot of pain and unfair pain on innocent people. Yeah, you can join later if I'm around, because I have laundry in the back and I'm going to get that done. But I just want to say there is an anger there that I have, because they are unfair, but they believe themselves to be in the right. And to them, they're fighting Nazis or Nazi sympathizers. To me, and on my end, these are Pol Pot fanatics. These people are insane. I mean, people on the right are far more likely to want to talk to you and address their issues. People on the left don't want to talk. And they know that they have power. I think they know, and I could be wrong on this, but I think they know that they have the power of the establishment behind them. That's why they do cancel culture. And cancel culture started on social media. And they've gained a footing. And they're not going to get, and that's one of the reasons why it needs to be looked in for subversion. And, social media helped exacerbate the riots. And they need to look into that fact. Let's take a look at Political Woodstock. How are you?
I'm doing well. I've lived out the Exorcist in the last couple of days, so it's been entertaining.
Yes. So, have you had? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Have you had your shot yet?
Well, the problem is I talked to the health department today in Oklahoma because I wanted to get my shot, and they said, "Well, you have to test negative for 3 months, and then you can get your shot." Well, if you've had COVID, most people know that have had COVID that you test positive for 90 days. And then I got to wait another 90 days with a negative test to get the shot, because what I had was severe and the side effects might threaten my life. So I'm on a 5-month wait.
Okay. I hear the dogs in the background. So
yes, I went outside to avoid the two schnauzers and the pomchi.
There we go. What about what I've just said? Do you agree with what I've said, or do you disagree with it?
What part?
That the establishment basically is behind the woke. And
well, what happened, Reagan in 1980 stopped the Fair Practice Act, where you had to present both sides of the story, kind of like when they would say the rest of the story way back in the 80s.
Yes.
And since that happened, we've had a demise of fair reporting. It just doesn't happen anymore on both sides. It's slanted on both, and you might as well call it state news on both sides. The Democrats and the Republicans, it's basically state news if you look at it, because of the way they present their information. What do you think?
You know what? I mean, I feel that talk radio, and there's one, the only somewhat conservative is OAN Fox News, and talk radio. But there are subjects that they won't even touch.
True, because they could get canceled. And what cancel culture does to people, if you're listening, it denies due process. This is a travesty. They need to stop people from putting news out there where there's no proof. You just can't.
Well,
a video is proof, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But some of this other stuff, like the what's the name of that education thing that they do in the public schools? What's that? Critical race theory. Yeah, I think that's wrong. I live in Oklahoma and Arkansas, and my Governor Stitt, he signed a bill recently that outlawed using critical race theory because of how it made the white kids feel. So they shouldn't have to pay for the sins of their, I don't know, eighth grandfathers.
Well, again, it's one thing to talk about history. It's another thing to address the current thing and to say that there's underlying issues in that. Because again, we all have, and I'd have to examine, because people have, the way in which critical race theory is defined differently. It seems to be defined differently with different groups, and there's a lot of gaslighting going on, and a lot of underhanded behavior by the left. And I think you're right, due process. And I think we are in an economic Cold War. And this is a civil war. And just as
it's going to get bad, it's going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So people need to be aware and learn about economics. I think a lot of people just don't know.
Yeah. But let me, here's what I think we need. Just as we helped out South Korea, and I would say we tried to help out Vietnam, communist, I think we need to have our sort of NATO alliance against these kinds of people. And they are entrenched they seem to be entrenched in the establishment, and we need to use economic boycotts, not just in America, but throughout the civilized world. We need to look at, because there are South Koreans that have who bought into the woke left stuff. We need to call them out, and we need to tell maybe even their family members who, some of their grandfathers served in Korea, and they have family members that, were, and they still have a draft, and they're still actively, communism never left them. Marxism never left them, and they're completely threatened by it. So the South Koreans, the Indian people in India,
excuse me,
and England just voted for a conservative, very conservative government. So the woke left, I don't think has much popular support, and we need to band together a NATO alliance, I think, perhaps, against the woke left, which has Marxist roots. And I think we need to think not just in America, but outside of the box, because these individuals have entrenched power, and we need to find a way to pull out of that entrenched power, and we need to do to them, I think to a degree, we need to do to them what they do to others. We need to punish them in the same way and give them the same treatment that they do to others.
Well, perhaps you're talking about a revolution, and a revolution is based in violence. I mean, this is just a fact. If you look at all the wars that we've gone through, when they wanted to have a revolution, they started in violence. Right. The reason why I say this, because I think your listeners need to know that the idea of communism may sound nice, but it does not implement well, because people are fallible. They're greedy. I think people do not know what the power of the press, what it really is. They do not know what communism is. Sure, it sounds great. Socialism sounds great, but there's always a price. And some type of socialism, I believe, is good for a country, like the post office, things like that.
Well, my thing is, I don't think leftism promotes harmony, it promotes envy, and a list of other things. And look,
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think they promote envy. Not at all. And I've been in it for a long time. And I have a perspective of coming out of it and looking at it from a different viewpoint. Now, I think the right has a lot of issues. It's got a lot of judgment. It's got a lot of death to those people type of mentality.
the left,
And that's my perspective. And I may be wrong, Brian. I may be wrong. What say you?
I think the left has a lot of judgment and a lot of, anything.
Oh, okay. I'll agree with you there. They have judgment with the cancel culture. They use it as a weapon. That's the new form of weaponization, is to be overly sensitive to what people say private or publicly. Concluded.
Yeah, and they are giving cover for egotists and narcissists to push down a hammer on them. And those that are doing that, I mean, if right now we have to pull back, but at some point we have to pull. I don't know how much economic strength the conservatives have. We have the trucking, and I mean, we do have the trucking industry. Most of the people who drive trucks, most of the farmers that farm. We can be non-compliant and say, hey, you don't want to respect us. We're not going to work with you. We're not going to feed you. We're not going to do those things for you. We'll, no food, like, hey, you're not going to feed us. We're going to do the same to you. What you do to me, I do to you. Anyway, we got Joey.
Well, it's like an embargo. If they're withholding items, food, you can do likewise. I mean, that's the power of economics. I go back to people really need to learn about economics because it's going to be vital for the next 10 years.
This is certainly an economic war that
yes.
we're entering in. It's an economic Cold War with some violence thrown in, but we need law enforcement on our side. We need to be passive when we have to be, and also defending ourselves if we have to. If we have to. Joey, do you have any? Do you have your perspective on this? I've been rather angry lately, so.
Well, I think war is a little bit extreme when you talk about finances. I don't think see what happens in most cases. We're going through change, heavy change, massive change. And if you guys aren't on the right side of we don't get the fucking playbook. Okay, there's a playbook that's out there. Most people just don't get it. We're not privy to it for the most case. I'm just talking about on the average here. And if people aren't willing to listen to people and discuss these things and find a way to be on top of the economic changes and to find the opportunity, then I think people will be less prone to considering it a war. And it's more of just, these are growing changes. The system was designed to eventually break apart, and that's what's going on right now. And you can see it when there's these events that pop up. Every time there's a drop, say, in the price of crude oil, and then all of a sudden you see crazy things happen in the Middle East, or an embargo of some kind, or some kind of ship gets stuck in the Suez Canal. These are all events that are done by placing of phone calls, in my view, and the people that are aware of how these things happen and when they happen are able to get in and be on the right side of where the changes are going to impact. That's just my view, and unfortunately, this is also a crushing of the middle class, and I've seen it firsthand. I've seen people with jobs making money hand over fist, incredible amounts of money, and people who have maybe not such secure jobs or lower level jobs, and they're really struggling. They've been cut off in some ways. So, anyways, that's just my kind of perspective on the finance part of it. There's a lot more to it, but these are just like the basics.
My point is with the social with the social construct where it goes, if people don't want to talk to you, and they were, and I know you don't like Tim Pool, but he was talking about a time he was out with. There were Trump supporters, and the Trump supporters would all talk to him. And then he was out with the counter protesters, and they all yelled, "Mic check, mic check, mic check." And it's like, what do you do with people who won't converse with you, who won't debate you, who just want you to bend the knee without discussion? What do you do with people like that? I don't want to be around people like that. I don't have a desire to be around people who don't want to listen to me, who don't care to hear what I have to say. If I have a concern, I want to be heard as a human being. I want to be heard. And if I'm not heard as a human being, then I don't want to be, and if you don't think that I have the right to be heard as a human being, I don't want to be around you. If you control the house or the machinery in that house, I don't want to be in that home. I'm a human being. You're a human being. If I say something that you disagree with, you tell me why. Don't just tell me to be quiet or that's racist or that whatever. I don't want to hear it. Then I don't want to hear that. I want to be treated fairly, and I as a human being, and I think every other human being is entitled to civility, rational and civil behavior. Rational, reasonable, and civil behavior. And those that don't...
Well, you're not going to find that at Tim Pool's show. I'm sorry to tell you this right now. This guy is a mainstream media, talking head media junkie who promotes fear. He promotes anger. He promotes a lot of nonsense, and he's done it from day one.
Respectfully disagree.
You can disagree, but you're on the wrong. You're just taking that as I'm not sure where you're getting your opinion from.
I have seen. I get my opinion from what I have seen and what I've observed. There are unhinged.
Observed in real life or observed at Tim Pool's show?
Yes, in real life, I've observed them. I have observed them in real life, and you saw. You
have to value him. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. And I would say if your quality of life is so poor in California, leave the state. Find a place where it meets your needs, where you feel valued, and that your future looks bright. Concluded.
And I'm just going to say this. Tim Pool has brought out the unhinged lunatics on the left, and they're there, and I've seen them in person. I've witnessed them. In the place where I live, I've witnessed them. They believe in political violence. They believe in the use of force to stop speech they don't like. And they believe it. And they live next to me. Concluded. Go ahead.
What do you got to say, Angela?
That what he's saying is right. Like I said before, when people want a revolution, they resort to violence. That may be political violence, trying to defame someone or lower their value. I think Brian's right. I think you need to concede.
Yeah, Joe, because what I'm saying is, these people who believe in political violence and the establishment is protecting the people that believe in political violence. And I've never seen anything like that before. And for me, from what I examine, it makes me angry. There are people sitting in jail right now who defended themselves in New York because they were attacked. And then when they went to defend themselves, the establishment prosecuted them. They prosecuted them without victims testifying of any kind. The victims of the so-called assault, which they defended themselves, didn't even testify. This happened in New York. I believe it was during some political rally, maybe a Trump rally, but they were met by Antifa, and the Proud Boys, rushed them and defended themselves. They may have defended themselves too hard, But Antifa didn't even cooperate. They did not have cooperative witnesses or cooperative victims. I've never seen anything like that, and that does anger me because it's a miscarriage of justice. You can't defend yourself when people are throwing bottles of urine on you and following you and harassing you with threats of physical violence. It's just unbelievable. You know, and the types of mobocracy, there are so many court cases that happened where people defended themselves or attempted to defend themselves that does anger me. And I am, as far as self-defense goes, Joe, I'm an extremist when it comes to the right to
Well, you know, you're talking about court cases, and I think you guys are still kind of stuck in this kind of, you know, the reasons behind the shutdown that we were coming slowly out of. And if you're not able to take a look back, and not even to take a look back, take a look right now at the courts, and look at how many shutdowns there have been um, for people to defend themselves across this country, who are not able to go in to a court and defend themselves because of these closures. I mean, what do you think that's all about? Why would the courts across the land get shut down to such an extent? And I think it's because of so many things being changed right now. So many people are able to defend themselves, and but I think they've got a wrong, like the Patriot movement, for example. I think it's been wrong since day one. You know, they don't take a from what I gather and from what I've concluded from all the things I've looked into and researched, that they've just been fighting the wrong fight. But people along the way are gaining traction on how to defend themselves in front of the magistrate, and I think a lot of our closures directly have to deal with this ability to people kind of learning the system and having eyes to see in this kind of new day and time we're in. I don't know if that has anything to do with what you're saying, but I just struck a chord.
Well, I mean, we got to know the legal wranglings, but we also got to know, like, you know, what we're allowed to say and what we're not. And so much is censored right now. The mainstream media censors stories, and they present it in a certain way that that doesn't get challenged. And then they work the corporate media and social media seem to be working together to build a narrative, and things that go against that narrative get censored. And at a time when we can't go out in public. And nowadays, if you go out in public, if we went out in public and tried, you know, people are so afraid of, number one, of economic ruin, and then also physical attack, because some of these people are unhinged. And I believe their motivation is they believe they are doing the right thing, that they are fighting the Nazis, that they are fighting Jim Crow, the Jim Crow Klansmen. And they believe that they're so right that there's no discussion with them, only destroy them. And they only, they want power because they are in the belief that their ideology and their philosophy is what is correct, and questioning it in any way is considered a threat. And that, to me, is very dangerous. These people, to me, are Pol Pot fanatics. And I don't want to live near them. I don't want to live next to them. And I don't want to have anything to do with them. If you just want to shut me down because I question you, you're dangerous. And if I can't stop you from being dangerous to me, then I want to flee you. That's my opinion. You have a comment on that?
No. Let's go. Move on.
Okay. Well, that's about all I had to say about that. I mean, and it does anger me. And it, like some of the things I see on, and maybe I should, I know I tell myself I'm not going to engage people online because some of the stuff they say is just so outrageously like, where do you come up with this stuff? The defaming of police officers, the defaming of conservatives, the defaming of Americans. It does kind of bother me.
I'm thinking that your ego's totally in the way of your ability to actually see the truth, and you're so steeped in nonsense that you don't know what cobweb to rip apart, and you're not sure what's beneficial, what spiders and bugs are beneficial, and which of them are going to bite you. And yes, get your rate out. Yeah, you need it. I'm sure you're huffing that on the side because your opinions are just so steeped in Drudge Report nonsense. Wow. Every one of these stories, if you take them apart, if you just spend a little time really digging at the true inception, the origins of these stories, you're going to see them all fall apart. And you're going to see that these media people are all there, and they're successful in raping minds like yours, not willing to do your own research and taking these videos and these podcasts at face value, and they are all steering you in just a spin cycle. And I hear it, and the problem is you don't believe that there's a deception at any level, and that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I wish there was something I could do or say to light that torch for you, but once anybody breaks through all of that and starts to see that none of this has any significance, it's not going to hold you back one step. It right now is the greatest opportunity. Opportunity is everywhere. For every sort of so-called roadblock, on the other side of that is an opportunity, and I've seen it all across this weird period of time. And I can't be bothered by any of it. I can't watch Crowder. I can't watch that douchebag that whoever you just quoted for some crazy reason. Which one? Tim Pool. What's wrong with you, man? This guy is awful. This guy should be hung. This guy is as un-American as it gets. He's disgusting. He's disturbing. He doesn't talk to me. He is disgusting. He should be banned from all social networks. He should not be allowed to have a phone. He should be allowed nowhere near a microphone. He's terrible.
I can't believe that, Joey. Come on, everyone deserves their right. Number one, I believe.
Whatever. He's not a regular person, is my point. He's propped up by the YouTube. He's propped up. He's a mainstream babble fest. He's disgusting. I've done the surveying on him, and the verdict is disturbing.
Hey, Joe, come on. I mean,
I've watched him, and he's disgusting. I will never give that guy even 2 seconds of my life. Never. I would spray Raid up that guy's butthole. He's terrible. You're muted.
Myself, because I was reaching for my rate. Listen, I believe in about 95 to 99% of what Tim Pool says.
Unfortunately, we're not in an age of belief anymore. You better start knowing, because that's what we are in. We are in a time of knowing, not believing in these liars and deceitful, disgusting excuses for YouTubers. He is awful. He's pathetic. He's not good for anybody's brain, especially young person's brains, and certainly not boomer brains. He's not good for any brains. Tim Pool is the worst. He should be kicked out of the genetic pool. Forget him.
Joey, listen, Tim Pool talks, a lot of truth about the unhinged
Don't
lunatic.
say truth and Tim Pool in the same sentence ever again.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Yeah, he's
It's his opinion.
you know what? Maybe you know what? I don't get into all this.
I do. He's horrible.
I live in the real world where there are real nasty people there, Joe.
I've been there, and I agree.
You've seen the BLM, these leftist, white silences of violence. You've heard this stuff before. You've heard these fake, phony, boo-hooey.
Where? Woo? In my real life? No. At some event at a park that's put on by these people who are complicit in the nonsense? Sure.
Some of your neighbors.
They've got closed-minded opinions too. They're dummies. I'm sorry.
Well,
I wish my neighbors were not like that, but they are. They are. My neighbors watch the news and they believe in the news. And so I don't have time for them.
Certain news I believe in, others I don't.
Yeah.
But I see, I've talked to some of these individuals. They are not decent. They think they're decent, but they're not. And they're very vindictive and they're very cruel people.
But these aren't the people that are going to survive. These aren't the people that are going to thrive and get up to the next levels in life. They're not.
These are the people we need to ban. Noble people need to ban again. I think noble people need to get together and be against them. They are bad, awful people.
I don't need to be against anybody. That's the problem here. Divide and conquer has worked. Divide and conquer. Your life is based around divide and conquer, and you would benefit by looking at all the things in your life where divide and conquer tactics have either skewed your opinion or have you bound to some sort of belief system.
Somebody going to join Hamas? Look. I don't know, if we're ever going to agree, if I'm going to ever agree on what you're saying. I believe that there are very cruel and vindictive people out there who think that their cause is just. They're a lynch mob. And in my opinion, I may need to flee this lynch mob. And at some point, it's an economic war as of now. Hopefully, I hope that it never gets to, but I want the ability to defend myself against them as best as humanly possible. And by the way, I want to say that we don't condone violence. That hung about Tim Pool was metaphoric. So disavow any violence, but it was passion speak. But in my opinion,
I'll tell you right now, I consider myself a pacifist, okay? I am a pacifist, but people like Tim Pool should get kicked in the ass. I should never have to see this guy or hear about him. People's opinion should not be based on something this guy says, because I've done the homework. I've talked to other people about it. There's no mistaking. This guy is a fearmonger, and okay, I'll stop there.
I disagree. Yeah. I think he's red pilling America. And you are spitting that red pill out as hard as you can. And actually, you're keeping your mouth completely closed. And you will not take the pill. You were just like, and actually, I think if someone tried to give you that pill, I think you might pull a gun out on them.
I'm a pacifist. I will not point a gun at anybody.
But you won't take the pill.
If they try to steal my property or injure me, then they will feel the wrath. But
you won't take the pill.
I don't need Tim Pool's pill. There's a lot of disinformation agents out there. There's a lot of controlled opposition. And I don't know if you know what controlled opposition is, but Alex Jones is a great example. He's the picture boy of controlled opposition. But guys like Tim Pool fit right in there. They are talking heads for a system that's gone ballistic. It's gone.
Say the same thing with the people on CNN.
No, because CNN to me offers no truth at all. So controlled opposition has to offer something of value as sort of like the bait that's at the end of their line. And they've got a bobber in the water, and they've got their bait dangling in there, and they're looking for people to snap it up and accept it. And the way they do it, the effective controlled opposition can tell a lot of things that can be construed as truth, but it's either what they're not saying or what they're just misrepresenting that tells the tale. And if you're not able, if you're blinded by their so-called whatever they're offering that rings true to you, if they're luring you in and with their bait and you're biting on their so-called truth, because guys like Tim Pool can offer some good information, but it is wrapped in a lot of disgusting gameplay, and if you can't recognize it, you're not looking hard enough, in my opinion.
Let me ask you a question. What has he said that you disagree with?
I've watched a lot of his shows where he's just one example is all the fear mongering. Everything's just listen for the fear. Listen to how many things he discusses where they're all the things you echo about being scared about things. There's nothing to fear in this life. What are you afraid of? And if you're listening to this guy and you're walking around going, I agree, we're getting attacked by this or that or these so-called groups or whatever, it's all nonsense. If you're living your life as a fear-based being, where these guys can say something that's sort of frightening, and just listen to Tim Pool and make a mental note of all the things he says that can be construed as scary, frightening, ugly, whatever. This guy has nothing of value to offer. Nothing.
I
haven't heard him in over a year. So maybe at some point I'll check him out and give you a more refreshed example, but I don't need it. He's disgusting.
I would disagree with that. Hopefully the echo isn't. But
what are you trying to prove by agreeing with him? Let me ask you that. What do you get out of it?
Well, I mean, hopefully the echo doesn't show on the thing. But there are enemies out there.
Who?
Well, right now our biggest enemy is the left, but there are thieves, there are crooks, there are people out there that would do us harm, and there've been enemies throughout time, and today our biggest the biggest enemy to the noble people is the woke left, in my opinion. Because they have the most power.
It's a dangerous way to live a life, I think. Well, living your life afraid of things popping out from the bushes is a frightening way to live.
I recognize my enemy, and that's an intelligent way to live. It's an intelligent way to know your enemies.
Self-professed intelligence is not intelligence.
Hey, it's self-professed. I know what dogs bite. I have an inkling of what dogs bite and what dogs don't. And I don't pet the dogs that bite. I don't want to be around the dogs that bite. So I go to the better puppy pound, where I'm not going to get a dog that bites me. I know what can hurt me. When there are alligators and wolves, you don't let them, you don't hang around them. I know the human alligators and wolves. I've seen them in action. And they believe they're noble. They believe they're good. But they're just fanatics. And I think we are fighting that. because I've seen them in action. I've seen their behavior, and they believe that they're just and they're right in what they're doing. And this is on all levels. And I believe it's dangerous. And I know you probably didn't agree with the Cold War, but I think we are in a cold civil war. It's economic and it's cultural as of now. It's not like hot, but there seems to be an iron curtain as far as the elites go, an iron curtain as far as information goes and when information goes out there. And I think it's a dangerous situation. And Joe, I'll give you the last word since you came in later and I've talked more than you have. Last word before I go out, and I got laundry to do. So last word, Joey.
The best day of my life came years ago. I turned off the television. I turned off the news. I used to love the news. I used to write a lot of articles based on current events, news going on. And it wasn't until I opened my eyes to what I was really witnessing and promoting. And when I realized the damaging vibe, the damaging information that was being, even in my small world, my just opening my mouth and echoing these events that for the most part either didn't happen or were basically just paid infomercials. Once I recognized the news cycle, how it works, how news stories are disseminated, how information is passed along to the masses, and once I decided I would not be part of that chain, that was the most freeing day of my life. It was better than the day when I was at Hebrew school and this girl pinned me against the wall and kissed me. It was quite a day at Hebrew school. It was better than that. It was a better feeling than almost anything that's happened to me in my life.
So whatever happened to that girl?
I think she caught my zits and went away. No, I don't. It was an interesting day, but yeah, no. My point is, it was one of the more liberating things I've ever done for myself, and I have zero tolerance now for people in my life who sit around the TV echoing BS stories.
I have another story like that, but I think I'll tell it off the air because you may not want to hear it, but
I want to hear it. Let's do it.
Hey guys, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. I still disagree with Joe, but the thing is, we're talking about it. We're not being violent.
Right.
So for the most part, we try to keep it peaceful. I still believe that we are in a bit of an economic Cold War. There's an iron curtain rising in this country. We need to find a NATO allies as we helped out the South Koreans against the North Koreans and the Chinese and the Soviet communists. I think Americans, patriotic Americans who don't like communism need help. And I think that's just my opinion. Joe, one more before we...
No, if you align your thinking with the likes of people like Tim Pool, please reevaluate everything in your life. Start from scratch, tear it all down, and just start over.
Good enough. All right, with that, like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below who you agreed with. If you agreed with me, say, yeah, I was right. And if you have a lobotomy, maybe you can agree with Joe. I'm kidding. It would be good to hear. Probably no one's going to come onto that. So anyway, you never know. Anyway, like, subscribe, even share the video. Okay.
Share it. Get it out there. Go to our website, transparencyandmerit.com.
Absolutely.